We were just sitting on the couch like any other night. Nothing special. Nothing dramatic. TV playing in the background. Her scrolling on her phone. Me sipping from a half-finished cup of cold coffee. And then, out of nowhere, she said it, with a smirk on her face and not a hint of hesitation. She looked at me and said, "At least my ex knew what he was doing in bed." 9 words. That's all it took to burn down the last 3 years of my loyalty. She didn't even blink after she said it. Just turned her eyes back to her screen like she'd casually mentioned the weather. Like she hadn't just carved a hole straight through my self-worth. And you know what's crazy? I didn't feel the anger right away. I felt cold, numb. Like my body knew before my mind could even catch up. That this was it. That this was the moment something broke that couldn't be fixed. She was waiting for a reaction. A laugh. A sarcastic comeback. Maybe a fight. Something dramatic. Because that's how we always played this game. She'd push. I'd pull back. She'd hurt. I'd heal. She'd throw a jab. I'd swallow it and pretend it didn't cut. But not this time. This time, I didn't say a word. I stood up slowly, walked to the bedroom, opened the closet, pulled out my travel bag, and started packing. One shirt. My favorite hoodie. Toothbrush. Phone charger. My book. Nothing more. I wasn't running. I was walking away. She looked up, finally noticing the silence was heavier than usual. "What are you doing?" she asked, half laughing, still thinking this was a joke, still thinking I was playing a part, that I'd zip the bag, storm out, and come back in an hour with apologies and open arms. I didn't answer her, didn't even look at her. I zipped the bag, took my phone, walked into the living room, and placed my key on the table. Not angrily, not dramatically, just finally. And I typed out a single message. Simple, clean, permanent. Call him. He's your problem now. And then I walked out. Not a word. Not a glance. Not a breath wasted on trying to explain the dignity she just spat on. As soon as the door shut, my phone buzzed. 1 message. Then 3. Then 10. Wait. I was joking. Are you serious? Come back. Don't be dramatic. I didn't mean it. Please. But none of it mattered. Because I had finally heard her. Loud and clear. Not just in that sentence, but in everything she had been saying without words for months. The smirks. The comparisons. The way she'd bring up her ex like he was some measuring stick. Like I was always one step below him in her eyes. She thought I didn't notice. Thought I was too nice. Too soft. Too in love to say anything. But I noticed. I noticed when she joked about how passionate he was. I noticed when she mentioned how spontaneous he could be. I noticed when she rolled her eyes at how boring I was for wanting stability. I noticed every time she chipped away at my confidence. And I let it slide. Again and again. Because I loved her. And that was the problem. I loved her so much. I stopped loving myself. I stayed in a relationship where I had to laugh at my own pain. Smile through humiliation. Pretend her jokes weren't knives. Just because I didn't want to lose her. But that night, when she said those words, when she compared me to someone she claimed to be over, when she looked me in the eye and said it with a smirk, it hit different. It didn't feel like a joke. It felt like the final confirmation. That I wasn't her person. I was just her placeholder. Someone to keep her company until something better came along. And I refused to be that any longer. I got in my car, put my phone on silent, and just drove. No destination, no plan, just away. From her. From that apartment. From the version of me that tolerated being treated like an option. I ended up parking at a gas station miles away. Sat in the driver's seat. hands on the wheel, letting the reality of it all settle in. I wasn't going back. Not this time. And for the first time in months, I felt something. Relief. Not because I was free from the relationship, but because I had finally chosen me. I checked my phone once before heading into the station. 32 unread messages. 4 missed calls. A voice note. I didn't listen to any of them. I didn't need to. Because there's something about the silence that follows disrespect. It's not quiet. It's roaring. It's the sound of boundaries being rebuilt. Of self-worth returning like a tide you thought had drowned. She thought she could break me. But I didn't shatter. I simply stepped away. Not because I was weak, but because I was finally strong enough to let her go. And that's what she never expected. Not the silence. Not the calm. Not the closed door. But that I'd close it, lock it, and throw away the key, without ever needing to look back. She never expected me to leave. Not really. Sure, maybe she thought I'd get upset. Maybe storm out. Maybe even disappear for a few hours. But deep down, she was counting on me coming back. Because I always did. No matter what she said. No matter how sharp the jokes got. How deep the comparisons cut. How often she pushed my patience to the edge. I always came back. Always forgave. Always stayed. That was the role she had carved out for me. The man who absorbs pain with a quiet smile. The one who's strong enough to handle it. As if that made her cruelty some kind of compliment. But this time, I didn't follow the script. The silence I left her with wasn't temporary. It wasn't some emotional timeout. It was closure. Unspoken. Final. And she didn't know how to handle that. The texts came fast. First, short and dismissive. Wow, really? You're just gonna walk out? Don't be soft. Then they turned playful. Okay, I was kidding. You know I joke like that. Come on, don't be dramatic. And when none of that worked, she panicked. Please. Can we just talk? I didn't mean it. You're blowing this out of proportion. But I wasn't blowing anything out of proportion. I was just finally giving her the silence she deserved. Because after years of absorbing her jokes, after countless nights lying awake wondering if I was truly enough, I had finally realized that love shouldn't hurt like this. Not slowly. Not quietly. Not repeatedly. Until you forget who you were before you started apologizing for not being someone else's ex. I stayed at my friend's place that night. Told him I needed a couch. He didn't ask why. He just nodded. Tossed me a blanket. And left me alone with my thoughts. I sat there in the dark. My phone buzzing every few minutes. Her name lighting up the screen. And for the first time, I didn't reach for it. Because I knew exactly what those messages were. They weren't apologies. They were control. Attempts to reel me back in. To reset the cycle. To make me doubt myself again. So she wouldn't have to face what she said. But I wasn't falling for that anymore. I thought about the way she used to bring him up. Her ex. Always in these subtle digs. God. He used to do this thing with his hands. Remember when I told you about that night in Miami? I mean, my ex could be a jerk, but at least he knew how to make it fun. And every time, I just laugh it off. Shrug. Swallow the sting and change the subject. Because I didn't want to seem insecure. Didn't want to admit it bothered me. But it did. It chipped away at me. Slowly. Relentlessly. Until one day I looked in the mirror and didn't recognize the man standing there. And that night, when she finally crossed the line, it didn't feel like betrayal. It felt like relief. Like someone turned on the light and I could finally see what I'd been living in. She thought I'd come back. Because I always did. But this time, I didn't even look back. I turned off my notifications. put my phone on the dresser, and lay down on a stranger's couch. In the dark, alone, free. And I slept. Not peacefully, not deeply, but honestly, for the first time in a long time, without needing her to tell me who I was, or who I wasn't, because in walking away, I had finally come back to myself. The silence drove her wild. She wasn't used to it, not from me. She was used to the yelling, the snapping back, the back and forth, because that was our cycle. She'd throw the punch, and I'd meet her with fire or with forgiveness. Either way, there was always noise. Always something. But this time, there was nothing. No reply. No reaction. Just a quiet exit. And that's what got her the most. Not the fact that I left, but that I left without trying to hurt her back. Her first messages were still smug, sarcastic. Wow, you're really being sensitive. You can't even take a joke now? Like she still believed this was temporary. Like this was just me pouting and I'd be back once I cooled down. But I didn't respond. Not a word. Not even a read receipt. And slowly, her tone changed. From playful, to defensive, to nervous, to desperate. Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't mean it like that. I was just in a mood. I thought you knew I didn't mean it. I'm scared I pushed you too far. Yeah, she did. And I let her. For too long. I saw it coming in waves. That realization hitting her. That she had finally said the one thing I wouldn't recover from. That the silence wasn't a tantrum. It was the end. I knew she'd start reaching. Trying to claw her way back into my life. Voice notes. Paragraphs. Late-night messages saying she couldn't sleep without me. Saying she felt sick, thinking about what she'd done. That I was the best thing that ever happened to her. But I stayed quiet. Because I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't even hurt anymore. I was just done. And I think that scared her more than anything else. That I didn't care enough to fight. That I wasn't trying to make her feel guilty. I wasn't trying to teach her a lesson. I was just gone. Emotionally. Mentally. Completely. She even tried calling from a different number. Blocked number. Emailing. Tagging me in old photos. Trying to stir nostalgia. Trying to remind me of who we were. But she didn't realize. I wasn't that guy anymore. The guy who stayed. Who let things slide. Who brushed off pain like it was dust on his shoulder. He was gone. And I didn't want him back. I spent my days moving forward. Little things. Making breakfast without waiting for someone to join. Playing music I liked. Cleaning my space the way I wanted it. Feeling peace in the quiet. Where there used to be eggshells on the floor. And at night. When her messages still came. Still desperate. Still spiraling. I didn't feel victorious. I felt free. There was no satisfaction in her regret. No twisted sense of, I won. Just this calm, solid knowing. That I had finally done the thing I'd been too scared to do all along. Walk away without needing her to understand why. Because the truth is, when someone hurts you, and then panics only because you didn't stay, that's not love. That's control. And I wasn't under hers anymore. Not her words. Not her moods. Not her twisted nostalgia for a version of me that she could mistreat. And she finally felt it. That loss. The kind that doesn't announce itself. The kind that just slips away quietly. Until you realize too late. You won't get it back. I started rebuilding my life. Not for revenge. Not to make her jealous. Not to prove a point. I did it because for the first time in years, I was living for myself again. There was no big transformation. No overnight glow-up. It was subtle, quiet, real. I began waking up early. Not because I had to, but because I wanted to. I wanted to take walks. Drink my coffee in peace. Breathe without that constant weight in my chest that came from trying to please someone who was never pleased. I hit the gym again. Not for a six-pack, but for strength, for discipline, to feel good in my own skin, because I realized I had spent so much time trying to be her idea of a man, that I forgot to be my own. I reconnected with friends I drifted from, guys I used to hang out with before every weekend became about her. People who made me laugh without keeping score. People who didn't tear me down and call it joking. I cleaned my apartment. Not just the floors, but everything. Cleared out the old drawer she used to keep her stuff in. Donated the hoodie she always stole. Tossed the mugs we bought together. Not because I was bitter, but because those things belonged to a version of me that no longer lived there. And in doing that, in letting go of those objects, I felt lighter. She was still texting, still calling, still sending long messages about what we had, trying to bait me with memories, sending photos of us from better days, trying to spark something that had long been extinguished. She even said she'd been seeing a therapist, said she was working on herself, that she realized she had trauma, and that maybe her comment that night came from a place of fear and self-sabotage. Maybe it did. But that wasn't my responsibility anymore. I didn't need to play the role of her emotional rehab. Didn't need to be the one she hurt while trying to figure out who she was. And when she sent that final message, a picture of us on vacation, smiling, carefree, with the caption, "I miss this," I didn't even flinch. I looked at it and realized it was just a picture. It didn't bring back warmth, didn't make me question anything, because I saw that version of myself, smiling next to her, and all I could think was, that guy deserved better. And now he had it. I never replied. I didn't block her. I didn't post anything to get her attention. I just kept living. Because healing isn't loud. It's not public. It's not about making someone regret losing you. It's about finally seeing your own worth again, and realizing they didn't deserve the pieces of you they took for granted. She hadn't lost me in one night. Not with one sentence. She lost me slowly. Through every dismissive comment. Every comparison to her ex. Every smirk after saying something that made me feel small. That final sentence. At least my ex knew what he was doing in bed. That wasn't the cause of the breakup. It was just the last nail in a coffin I'd been quietly building for months. And now, that coffin was buried. And I wasn't looking back. I was done explaining my worth to someone who only saw it when it was gone. And that, more than anything, was the closure I never needed her to give me. Months later, I ran into her at a friend's gathering. One of those casual backyard get-togethers where the music is low, the drinks are plenty, and everyone's pretending like time didn't move on without them. I wasn't planning on staying long. Just showed up to say hi, grab a burger, catch up with people I hadn't seen in a while. But then I saw her. Across the yard. Same hair, same eyes, same nervous way of adjusting her sleeves when she felt out of place. She saw me too. And I swear, for a second, everything slowed down. Not because I missed her. Not because there were feelings left. But because I could see it in her face. She wasn't expecting me to be okay. She looked surprised, maybe even a little stunned. I wasn't supposed to look this calm, this confident, this free. I was talking, laughing, holding a plate in one hand and a drink in the other. And not once had I looked for her. Not once had I shown even a flicker of hesitation. Eventually, she made her way over. She tried to act casual, like she just happened to walk by. But I saw the way her hands fidgeted, the way her eyes couldn't meet mine for more than a second. "Hey," she said, soft, uncertain. I nodded. "Hey." There was a pause. That kind of silence that stretches out too long. The kind you both feel. You look good, she said. Thanks, I replied. I feel good. That one sentence hit harder than anything else I could have said. Because it wasn't just about looks. It was about peace. About how I carried myself now. Unbothered. Unattached. Unreachable. She looked like she wanted to say more. Maybe she had practiced it. Maybe she thought this moment would go differently. That I'd be colder. That I'd still be bitter. That I'd need her closure. But I didn't. She said, I've been thinking about what I said that night. And I let her. I let her talk. Watched her fumble through some excuse. Some half-explanation about how she was in a bad headspace. How she thought I'd know she was joking. How she never imagined I'd leave. I just listened. Didn't interrupt. Didn't argue. Didn't offer forgiveness or validation. When she was done, she waited. Like she expected something. Some response. Some opening. Some sign that there was still a door cracked open. But I just looked at her and said, I know. She blinked. A little thrown off. Probably waiting for a follow-up. But there wasn't one. Because I did know. I knew she didn't mean it as a joke. I knew she meant every word. I knew she said it to hurt me. To shake me. To test me. And I knew that losing me hadn't really hit her until I didn't come back. She gave me a sad smile. That look people wear when they realize they can't fix what they broke. When the glue doesn't stick anymore. When the apology comes too late. I'm really sorry, she said. And maybe she meant it. Maybe for the first time. She actually understood. But I didn't need the apology. Because I wasn't holding on to the pain. I had already dropped it. Walked away from it. Buried it. I know, I said again. Then nodded toward the party. I should get back. And just like that, I turned. And walked away. Not to be cruel. Not to prove anything. But because I had already said goodbye months ago. And I didn't owe her another conversation. She watched me go. I didn't have to turn around to know. Because for the first time in our entire story, she was the one left standing there. Alone. Wondering what went wrong. I was just living. Finally. Without needing to be forgiven for walking away from someone who never thought I would.